And now, a 27 News special. As Decision 2006 nears, 27 News and our media partners present a live gubernatorial debate. It began 4 years ago. State Insurance Commissioner Kathleen Sebelius defeated State Treasurer Tim Schallenberger for the governor's office, the first Kansas Democrat in 46 years to win an open governor's seat.
We will succeed.
This summer, 3 Republicans fought for the chance to challenge the governor.
We've mortgaged our children's future.
And State Senator Jim Barnett won the Republican nomination.
We need someone who will lead this state and a governor who will do more than say, take 2 aspirin and call me when I'm president.
For the past 3 months, these 2 candidates have been traveling the state and hitting the airwaves.
We've made great strides over the past few years.
I do not support expansion of gambling.
And now it comes down to this. 27 News, KSNW-TV, AM 580 Radio, and the Topeka Capital Journal present a Kansas gubernatorial debate between Governor Kathleen Sebelius and State Senator Jim Barnett, moderated by 27 News anchor Amy Leitz and Washburn University professor Bob Beatty.
And good evening, and thank you for joining us for this Decision 2006 live debate. I'm Amy Leitz. Joining me tonight is our KSNT political analyst and Washburn University political science professor, Dr. Bob Beatty. In the next hour, we hope to get you better acquainted with the 2 leading candidates for Kansas governor, Kathleen Sebelius and Jim Barnett. You'll learn what issues matter to them and their plans if they should be elected November 7th. With less than 2 weeks before Election Day, this is an opportunity for you to become a more informed voter.
This debate will include questions not only from myself and Amy, but the candidates will also face questions from you, the voters. We took our cameras out and about and let several citizens have the microphone to ask the candidates directly what matters most to them.
We also have 3 media partners and questions from each panelist. Anita Cochran is from KSN in Wichita. Chris Moon is from the Topeka Capital Journal, and Liz Mondano is from 580 Radio. Let's get started with opening statements from both candidates. We flipped a coin to determine who would go first. Governor Sebelius will begin. Governor, you have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Dr. Beatty, and welcome to Kansas viewers. It's great to have an opportunity to talk about what's happened over the last 4 years and what opportunities we have for the future. You know, the state was not in great shape when I walked in the door in January of 2003. We had 47,000 unemployment claims filed my first week in office, and we were broke. 4 years later, we look a lot different, and I'm very proud of the progress we've made. We started with a top-to-bottom audit, uncovering waste and inefficiencies, and gave businesses the confidence to create new jobs. So 29 of the last 31 months, we've had job growth in Kansas. We worked to bring the legislature together and pass an historic commitment to our schools, which makes sure that all Kansas children will have great schools in their community. We've made progress on affordable health care and lowering costs and healthier Kansas lifestyles, and stood behind our military men and women and protected our bases. Targeted some very dangerous criminals and some important crimes and have safer and more secure communities. Did all that by moving away from the partisan bickering of the past and bringing people together to work on a brighter future and a brighter vision for Kansas. I'm proud of the work we've done and look forward to the opportunity to talk about what progress we can make working together over the next 4 years.
And now to the Republican nominee for governor, State Senator Jim Barnett.
Well, Bob and Amy, thank you so much for this opportunity to be with you. Viewers, listeners, thank you for taking time this evening to allow me to join with you and the other great citizens of this state to look at what is extremely important as you go to the polls on November 7th. First of all, I'm a farm kid, 4th generation from a small town called Reading near Emporia. I'm a practicing physician and have been practicing medicine the last 24 years. I'm an old school board member, past school board president, and married to my wife, Yvonne, of 28 years, a special education teacher, and have been in the Senate the last 6 years dealing a great deal with education and health care. You've seen many political ads on television, some good, some bad, some truthful, some not. You've seen some ads that have said the governor has saved $1 billion when in fact the money was taken from the highway program and is now credit card debt for your children and your grandchildren. You've seen some ads of the governor driving a school bus when in fact the Kansas Supreme Court drove the school bus and is now in control of your tax dollars. You've seen some ads about the economy booming when in fact this year we're 50th in the nation in private sector job growth. Since 2003, we're 42nd in the nation in job growth in this state. We can do better. Just as patients come to me with broken problems, they want me to fix their problems. I know as governor, you want someone in the office elected to fix the problems of this state. We do have a bright future, but it will take leadership to get there. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you to both candidates. Now the debate begins. The rules tonight are the same for all questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to reply and a 30-second rebuttal.
Our first set of questions come from members of our new staff here at KSNT. Candidates, over the next hour, both of you will be receiving numerous questions about a variety of issues that are important to the state of Kansas. With that in mind, I'd like to ask you to speak to something else that is important as a leader, your personal background and traits. Can you please tell us specifically what molded you into the person you are today and why you are a good fit to lead the state of Kansas? And Governor Sebelius, you will begin with 1 minute.
Well, Amy, I think like all citizens of this great country and of the world, molding starts at home with parents. And I was fortunate to have wonderful parents, wonderful grandparents who taught me, among other things, the importance of education, taught us about faith and community, about public service. My father was in public service from the time I was a little girl, so I knew what a contribution could be made by somebody who was willing to be involved in their community, to look to the future. I had great teachers. The nuns taught me well about, again, sacrifice and service, and created an atmosphere where we had great learning and great opportunities. And then I've had terrific mentors and teachers along the way. So I have been incredibly fortunate. I've been trying to find ways that other Kansas children who weren't smart enough to choose the best parents could have mentors and friends and great teachers around them, and they can also have the opportunities that I've been able to enjoy.
Okay. Senator Barnett, same question.
Well, Amy, thank you. My molding started from the two most important teachers I ever had in my life, my mom and dad. I worked alongside my dad for years on the farm, and God bless him, he died last year, but he taught me so much of the values that are important to Kansas: hard work, sweat, long hours, honesty, decency. I saw him serve on the school board as well, and my mom as well, whose greatest job in life has been to raise her children. From there, it was a matter of practicing medicine, dealing with patients, dealing with their concerns, their worries, and I continue that in the Senate. And frankly, that has driven me to be a better senator, to work because I go home and I see people, I know their needs, I know their worries, and that today will make me a better governor as well. Thank you.
Okay, and maybe not so much called a rebuttal as a response. Governor Sebelius, you have 30 more seconds to add anything else.
Well, I just think that one of the things that we can do as leaders is find opportunities to build support systems around the children of Kansas who don't have those great opportunities. I'm so pleased that former coach Bill Snyder stepped up and is willing to lead a Kansas Mentors program to reach out to adults across this state and convince them to be involved in the lives of children who may not have those critical support systems. So I'm hoping that if you're listening tonight and have a little volunteer time left available, look up the Kansas Mentors Program. We could use you to impact the life of a Kansas child.
Okay, Senator Barnett.
Oh, let me add that serving on the school board in Emporia was an extremely important time for me, dealing with a cultural makeup of our community that was changing, a growing Hispanic population, and trying to help our community learn how to work with that, to find answers for health care, for housing, for education, for law enforcement. Those were critical days, as well as I worked also with the Chamber of Commerce on dealing with those issues that were then important and now important today of economic growth for this state.
Thank you from the two candidates. Now we move to question 2. I've heard estimates that suggest that between money owed to the state retirement system, money borrowed from the State Department of Transportation's trust funds, the public school finance plan, increasing costs for Medicaid, the needs of higher education, there's about $2.25 billion in unmet commitments to be funded by the end of this decade. What plans do you have to offer to meet these already existing commitments? Senator Barnett, we start with you. You have 1 minute.
Well, Bob, that's a great question. It's something I've talked a great deal along on the campaign trail because we have a school finance bill that the governor signed that outspends revenues $800 million over 3 years and drives our state to debt. I don't run my business that way. I won't run the state that way. And it really speaks to the larger term issue facing the state. How do we pay for capers, the multi-billion-dollar unfunded liability? How do we help college tuition be more affordable for our families? The path we're taking under the current administration is one of deficit spending. We're spending more money than we have, and we're driving business away because we've become a high-tax state. That's why I offered a credible plan to grow this state's economy, because that's the only way long-term we'll be able to deal with those issues, to get the Kansas economy growing and catch up with our neighboring states and the rest of the nation. We can do that, but it will take someone with vision and long-term planning, someone who will do more than sit along on the sidelines.
Governor Sebelius, same question, 1 minute.
Well, Bob, I think that my opponent and I have a different view of what's happening in Kansas. First, I'm very pleased that the legislature, after years of neglect and then foot-dragging, came together for a 3-year plan. My opponent did not support the plan, neither did his running mate. I did sign it into law. I encouraged the legislature to pass it, and I'm very pleased we now can make policy in the State House and not the courthouse. We can fund that plan. It's the most important commitment we will make to the future of our state, and I can assure the listeners as governor it will be funded. Also, our economy is growing. We have exceeded our revenue projections year after year. For the revenue went up about 7%. Last year, we were up 13% over the year before. We've already taken in $200 million at the end of the fiscal year and again the first quarter of this year that weren't expected. So I think we're very much on track to have a prosperous economy, 29 of 31 months of job growth. And I think there are issues and ways that we can tackle these institutional liabilities that we continue to have.
Senator Barnett, you have a 30-second response.
Well, the governor seems to be proud of the fact that we rank 42nd in the nation in job growth since 2003. I'm not. I understand that we have to look at facts. It's not a matter of being unrealistic. These are just the facts that face this state. And the last school finance plan we saw from the governor was actually 3 years ago. It was to raise property tax, raise sales tax, and raise income tax. Over time, it was a $1.2 billion tax increase. The legislature stopped that. We blocked it. Otherwise, it would have just caused further harm to the economy and Kansas families.
Governor Sebelius, 30 seconds.
We haven't had a tax increase in the 4 years I've been governor. In fact, we had a great jump start to what I think will be continued economic growth. The Chamber of Commerce estimates that the tax reductions passed this year, at my suggestion, the elimination of the property tax on business machinery and equipment and the phased-out elimination of the estate tax will be a $100 million benefit to Kansas businesses. That's the way you spur job growth and continue job growth in Kansas, and I'm pleased that those two bills are now law.
All right, thank you to both of you. Next question. The cost, quality, and availability of health care is a problem that continues to impact hundreds of thousands of Kansans. Governor Sebelius, you have proposed health care initiatives during the last 4 years that the legislature has not adopted. Senator Barnett, you have proposed a health care plan that your opponent's campaign has said will be too bureaucratic. Would both of you please explain your ideas on health care and also explain how you'll get these ideas through the legislature if you are elected governor? Governor Sebelius, you have 1 minute.
Well, Amy, I had the opportunity as insurance commissioner for 8 years to work on insurance-related health issues. And what I know is that we can be more strategic about the way we use state resources. I think insuring all of our children is a good step forward. We've made some progress. We have about 40,000 additional children with health insurance than when I walked in the door, but we need to do more, and I'm sorry that the legislature blocked that move this year. It's been endorsed by the Health Policy Authority. I'll introduce it again next year. We need to help small business owners. They don't want individual coverage. They want to be in groups, affordable groups. And again, we've made progress with the Business Health Partnership with more choices, more available coverage, but not enough. We need to continue to accelerate that. And we've lowered the cost of prescription drugs for a number of Kansans, but again, that's an area that continues to be a problem. I talked to Lee Scott yesterday and told him I was pleased, frankly, that Walmart has now included Kansas in their prescription choice, so more Kansans without health coverage can have lower drug costs.
All right, thank you so much. Senator Barnett, you now have 1 minute.
Well, thank you, Amy. An extremely important question, one I have great passion for. 12 years ago, the governor said she was concerned about health care. And 4 years ago, she said it again with 300,000 uninsured Kansans then, and now 300,000 uninsured Kansans later, we still don't have answers for health care reform. I started by introducing and shepherding through the legislature the Kansas Health Policy Authority, passed unanimously by the House and the Senate, with the governor stating she would veto that legislation. I've offered a credible plan to bring health insurance to more Kansans, to make it more affordable, so Kansans own their own insurance, because 80% of the uninsured are working Kansans, to make sure that cost and quality data are available to Kansans as well, so you make better choices, to expand the service for safety net clinics and provide prescription medicines to all needy Kansans. We can address this problem. We can make real progress with someone who understands and who will lead on the issue.
Governor Sebelius, 30 seconds response.
Well, I do think that some of what the senator has said, I certainly support, and that's why I was pleased to sign a transparency bill into law, why we have put additional dollars into safety net clinics the last 2 years, and why I certainly encourage healthier lifestyles. What Kansans want is not to own your own insurance. That's individual coverage that's expensive and frankly pretty precarious in the marketplace. What they want is to be included in group coverage. 80% of Kansans with insurance have group coverage, and that's what we need to work toward.
Senate.
Well, thank you, Amy. Kansans do want to be insured. They want to have that policy transportable with them when they change jobs or go someplace else. They want open enrollment, because right now, if you're well, insurance companies want you, but if you're sick, you're out of luck. If you're a diabetic or have heart disease, you're in trouble. I support open enrollment for all Kansas citizens, and we can address this need. I'm glad the governor finally has come along and supported some of the measures that I've suggested in the past. Her recommendations have been to expand entitlements, Medicaid and welfare, and to raise taxes. That's not health care reform.
Thank you, Senator Barnett. Well, we're well underway now with our debate between Governor Kathleen Sebelius and her Republican challenger, State Senator Jim Barnett.
When we return, we'll bring in our panelists and our viewers speak up. Hard-hitting questions about immigration, Kansas casinos, and one very big issue right now, public school funding. Stay with us. We're back after a short break.
What if the best parking spot was also the best for you? Who says it's not?
There's an amazing phenomenon sweeping America.
I don't know what's happening to me.
Heroes.
Yeah!
Ordinary people discovering extraordinary abilities.
Something is happening to me, too!
United by destiny when the world needs them most.
Don't you get what would happen?
Heroes. Monday on NBC.
Save the cheerleaders. Save the world.
Welcome back to the Decision 2006 Governor's Debate. We're here with Republican candidate Jim Barnett and Democratic candidate Kathleen Sebelius. Time now to let our viewers sound off. Our first question tonight comes from Will Baker.
I'm interested in talking with the candidates on determining on whether if a casino is in the future of Kansas or not.
All right, casinos, a heated topic for a lot of voters. Senator Barnett, you have 1 minute to respond.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate the question. Will, the issue is this, and this is what the governor has supported. The governor wants Kansas to become the first and only state in the nation to own casinos. If you are worried about corruption in government like I am, then you will be concerned about that proposal. And unfortunately, when we should have been dealing with school finance and the governor should have been offering leadership on school finance, she made a trip around the state trying to expand casino gambling. That takes our eye off the ball and does not address the needs we have for growing the state's economy. I've taken care of too many people who are bankrupt, divorced, charged with embezzlement, incarcerated, have children in need of care and care. I don't think the state of Kansas needs to have on its payroll card dealers and pit bosses. So I oppose state-owned casinos.
Governor Sebelius, same question, 1 minute.
Well, over the years, Amy, I've worked to allow local communities to have a vote on whether or not they would be in favor of expanded gaming in Kansas. What I hear when I travel around the state is a lot of frustration of citizens who are right now shipping their dollars to Missouri, to the river votes, to Oklahoma, to tribal casinos, to Las Vegas. Kansans gamble. What we have is the downside of the gambling problems and issues, and not the economic development. We have an opportunity to keep those dollars here at home, to have destination resorts and consumer dollars spent here in Kansas to attract tourist attraction and conventions. I have supported both state-owned and operated under tight regulation and privately owned and operated casinos. I think that it's time to let the Kansas voters make this very important decision and keep hundreds of millions of dollars that we're currently sending to neighboring states here at home.
Thank you, Governor Sebelius. Because of time constraints, we actually won't have rebuttals during this segment of the debate. Our next question comes from Ruskin Quofi.
When we look around Kansas, all we see is hotels and also restaurants. I mean, is there anything that the governor is doing, especially like providing good incentives that is going to attract other industries to actually establish in Kansas so that young graduates will stay in Kansas and then work in Kansas?
All right, the question actually involves bringing businesses to Kansas and what the candidates feel they could do to help that out. And we'll start with Governor Kathleen Sebelius.
Well, Ruskin, that's a wonderful question, and I've appreciated the opportunity over the last 4 years to travel around the state and find out what's really going on. And I can tell you businesses are growing and expanding. Just over the last month, I was in Columbus, Kansas with a real success story, King Louis making apparel and shirts, one of the only American-made apparel companies left, and they're growing jobs. I was in McPherson and saw Viga, who has moved their operation to McPherson, Kansas, and Abbott Labs, who is growing with help from the Bioscience Authority, and the new refinery capacity, thanks to legislation we passed and incentives given. I cut the ribbon on a wind farm in Spearville that helped to break ground on a new ethanol plant in Liberal. We need bioscientists in the northeast corridor of the state. We need aircraft workers and trained researchers in Wichita. So there are lots of opportunities. I'm pleased that our elimination of property tax on business machinery and equipment will continue to grow this economy.
Very much, Governor. Senator Barnett, you have 1 minute.
Well, thank you, Ruskin. I think your question tells me that you understand something the governor does not understand. We do have a problem with a growth deficit in the state. Our economy is sluggish. It's not keeping up. How do we get there? First of all, first year in office, we should eliminate the death tax. Many Kansans do their estate planning by leaving the state. They take their prosperity and their jobs with them. Number two, we need to phase down income tax rates in the state. Many Kansans leave Kansas. They do some simple math. They know they're better off to retire in Florida or Texas, and they have more money, so they leave. We need to stop that leak. Thirdly, for families, we want to increase dependent exemptions, $500 so young families have more cash in their pockets. And fourth, a 10% investment tax credit so any business, large or small, writes off bottom line 10% unlimited carry forward for this state. That will drive business. We will quit losing our children and grandchildren that have to leave this state to find a good paying job.
Another voter question now. Elba Unzueta wants to know about the candidate's stance on immigration.
I was wondering about, with immigration being a hot issue today, I was wondering if this should not be left to the federal government instead of Kansas taking it upon itself to take care of it. And also, isn't it true that the illegal immigrants are actually fulfilling a demand for jobs here in America?
All right, thank you, Ms. Nzueta. Wanting to know if the immigration issue should be left up to the federal government instead of Kansas taking it upon themselves to take care of it, and also questioning that isn't it true that the illegal immigrants are actually fulfilling a demand for jobs here in America?
Senator Barnett, you have 1 minute to answer.
Elba, thank you for the question. First of all, I do not believe as the governor that the problem with illegal immigration begins and ends on the border. And let me make this clear, I'm not against immigration. We're all immigrants. Every one of us in this room and those listening, I hope, are here legally. That's how we started this great nation. But those who are here illegally, we should realize that we have a problem, and we need a governor that knows that illegal means illegal. So I do not support driver's licenses like the governor has proposed and supported. I do not support in-state tuition for those in this country illegally like the governor has supported. It is now law. We have no business treating someone in this country illegally that has broken the law better than an American citizen. We should have English as our language, a common language to succeed in this state and nation, and we should protect the integrity of our voting system. So we know that Kansas citizens and American citizens are electing those, and the governor vetoed that legislation.
Governor Sebelius, same question. You have 1 minute to respond.
Elba, I think it's so important to have a comprehensive discussion about this issue and be honest with Kansans about what can be done at the state level and what can be done at the federal level. I fully support the notion that we need to protect our borders. Congress has finally taken a step in that direction after pleas from governors for years and years that we can't sustain this flow of illegal traffic coming across the border. That's a federal responsibility, and they have failed to meet those obligations. We need Congress to get back to work, and I hope the senator will join me in asking for Congress to have a comprehensive federal policy dealing with the illegals who are already in this country. What we can do at the state level, and again, legal means legal, is crack down on employers who are breaking the law. Again, I would invite the senator to join me in that effort. The legislature failed to pass a bill that was before them. I think it's important, if people are trying to seek jobs, that we make it clear that contractors who break the law, employers who break the law, need to be treated very seriously.
Thank you very much, Governor. Now, for our last voter question, we turn to the topic of education and Elizabeth Langley.
With education being one of our children's greatest molders of their future, their character, their dreams, we've been pouring in billions of dollars into the education system. I was curious if you would consider, since things really haven't been working as well as been planned, if you would consider leaving behind like the No Child Left Behind Act, which is causing teachers to focus more on tests instead of character building and actual education emphasis.
Well, Elizabeth's question deals with No Child Left Behind, but also the amount of money that is going into education in Kansas, and we start with Governor Sebelius.
Well, Elizabeth, you're absolutely right that education is a top priority, and we need to make sure that we not only have the maximum accountability for the dollars spent, the maximum result here at the state, and that's why I've insisted on a state-of-the-art audit by Standard & Poor's. We've got a baseline, and we're going to continue to push that as we make investments in schools. But frankly, the federal government has not lived up to its commitment. Everybody agrees that every child should be able to learn. No Child Left Behind imposes a whole new layer of regulations and mandates that make it even harder for great Kansas teachers to teach our children. We're about $120 million behind in the funding that was promised. And frankly, I'm hopeful that Congress will revisit this legislation. We want all children to get ahead, but we can't do it in Kansas when we don't have a partner at the federal level.
Thank you. Now, Senator Barnett, 1 minute.
Elizabeth, thank you for your question. Thank you for your concern about education. I felt this way as a school board member and school board president. I have felt this way as a state senator and feel this way as a gubernatorial candidate. There's no better way for us to spend our tax dollars than on education. Regarding No Child Left Behind, there are some good things and there are some bad things. And as I talk privately with superintendents, principals, and many teachers, they will share that what has increased student learning and proficiency more than anything else has been No Child Left Behind. But the goals are unrealistic, they're unachievable. 100% proficiency by 2014 is a goal we cannot achieve. Unfortunately, that's what the Supreme Court used in part to determine how much money we should spend, and is driving our state again to deficit spending and making it difficult for taxpayers to survive in this state. We will need to wait until the federal government works with us to find achievable, realistic goals. Thank you.
Time now to turn to our panel of media partners. Starting from the left, Anita Cochran is from KSN in Wichita. Chris Moon is from the Topeka Capital Journal. And Liz Mondano is from 580 Radio.
Each panelist will have a chance to ask 2 questions this hour. The rules remain the same, 1 minute for each answer, and each candidate gets 30 seconds for a rebuttal. We start with Liz Mondano, 580 Radio.
Thank you very much, Bob and Amy. My question is, how do you interpret the Second Amendment? If you believe it gives citizens the right to bear arms, does that include assault weapons? And in light of the recent violence in schools, Texas has begun to teach their school children to fight back. What measures would you support to protect the children of Kansas? Is fighting back a good idea, or is it going too far?
Governor Sebelius, you have 1 minute.
Well, I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, Liz, and a believer that part of our Kansas heritage and part of our Kansas future is a rich tradition of hunters and gun owners. And we have passed some common sense legislation, which I was pleased to sign, that makes sure that people don't get arrested or stopped because of inadvertent traveling with guns in their car. I am very alarmed as a parent, as a patron of schools, about anybody who sends their child to school and has to worry about whether that child is going to return alive or not. Nothing could be more frightening. So we need to absolutely ensure that our schools are safe. I'm pleased we have a school safety hotline that's been in place for 4 years and actually allows parents and others to make anonymous tips and get out ahead of any dangerous situation. I don't share the view that the best way to deal with potential school violence is to arm teachers or have more guns available in the school. I think that's more alarming.
Thank you, Governor. The same question to you, Senator Barnett. 1 minute.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I support the Second Amendment and supported the bill that was passed by the legislature, vetoed by the governor, and then overridden by the legislature as well. A very difficult issue, and one as a practicing physician that I struggle with a great deal. But of course, I realize that law-abiding citizens are not the ones who are bearing weapons and causing problems or committing crimes. So I support that right. However, the issue with school children, school violence, and what's going on with a lack of parenting at home is extremely concerning. As a school board member, I just dreaded the day to think that we would face a time when we would have to have metal detectors and that type of checking as our students would enter. I hope we do not enter that day in most schools across the state. But for some, it's become a practical necessity. Long-term fighting back, no, that's not our long-term solution. Our solution is safety and good parenting at home.
Thank you. Governor Sebelius, you have 30 seconds for a response.
Well, again, I think we need to take any action we can on the preventive side. We need to teach children about violence, and frankly, it's not just about guns, it's about bullying and making sure that they feel safe and secure emotionally and physically. We need to arm teachers with the ability to conduct themselves in a defensive manner and have an opportunity to deal with safety personnel. And we do have metal detectors in a lot of our schools and security personnel, and if we need more, we should have them there so children and teachers are safe in that environment.
Thank you, Governor. Senator, 30 seconds.
Well, sure, Bob. Let me just finish it by saying this, that the bill that we did pass, the bill that the governor vetoed, had a great deal of language regarding gun safety, classwork, good, extensive classwork that will better our state in terms of gun safety. I think that's one of the long-term issues, and it's unfortunate she vetoed it, but we overrode that veto, and I think it's going to be better for Kansas because of that.
Candidates, your next question comes from panelist Chris Moon from the Topeka Capital Journal.
Well, we all make mistakes, and we may be reluctant to admit that, but my question is a simple one. What is one mistake each of you have made during your time as a public office holder, either as governor or as a state senator, and what did you learn from that?
Senator Barnett, you will begin with 1 minute.
Chris, I would not claim that I have made only one mistake in my life, let alone in the Kansas Senate. I'm humbled by your question. You know, looking back on the issue of concealed carry when that vote first came to the floor, I voted against concealed carry. I trained at Parkland Hospital down in Dallas where JFK was taken after he was assassinated. After my first year's internship, I was the emergency room director. I was the pit boss. We called it the pit. Friday and Saturday night, the gun and knife club. And of course, I became extremely concerned with all the shots, the wounds, the injuries related to gun violence, and that's why I voted no. After I voted no, I was asked by many people to reconsider that vote. I did so. I changed my vote, and that was the right vote, the second vote.
Same question to you, Governor Sebelius. 1 minute.
Well, Chris, I make mistakes every day and hopefully learn a little something from each and every one of them. I would say probably my biggest regret over and over is frankly not having enough time in any day. There is so much to do on this job. It's a 24/7 job, and I need to learn more, need to be smarter. I'm so pleased I've had great people around me and great teachers and mentors, helpers and friends, cabinet members and staff, but I need to reach out more. I need to draw in more people and learn more. I continue to be a bit baffled by my opponent who says he's ready to be a part-time governor, that he thinks he can practice medicine and be governor at the same time, because I got to tell you, for me, I don't have enough time in any day to do this very important job, so I'm constantly looking for ways that I can manage my time better, respond to more Kansans, be more places at once, and I'll look forward to doing that in the future.
All right, and lucky for both of you, we're going to give you 30 more seconds to admit your mistakes. So 30-second rebuttal beginning with Senator Barnett.
Well, thank you very much. I will be a full-time governor. Let there be no doubt about that. Let me tell you this, one thing I've learned from practicing medicine, and I share this with pre-med students that round with me and want to be the best doctor they can be and ask me, how do I do that? I tell them to listen to their patients, because most of the time, either they or their family will tell you the right diagnosis. That's good for two reasons. It makes me get the right diagnosis, and that, of course, makes me look good. But number two, people love you when they listen to you. And I'm really quite willing to listen to the great Kansans about how we can make a better state.
Thank you so much, Senator Barnett. Governor Sebelius.
Well, I guess since we have this extra 30 seconds and we're doing confessions, I might just apologize to my wonderful husband and my two sons for not spending enough time and energy focusing on you. Maybe when we get through this election, there'll be a little more time, more mashed potatoes, I promise that, and look for ways that we can spend some more time together.
Thank you. That may be one of the few times mashed potatoes has been heard in a political debate. We now turn to
Solves everything.
Anita Cochran from KSNW-TV in Wichita.
And good afternoon, both Senator and Governor Sebelius. I'm going to give you a gift. You're going to be elected, and for the next 4 years, you're going to have $100 million. Don't worry about where it came from or how I got it. What are you going to do with it, assuming now that you have final say?
Start with Governor Sebelius.
Well, if I only have $100 million, we're in serious trouble. I'm hoping we're talking about an extra $100 million. I think that the best use to me continues to focus on education. I'm assuming we're paying for the commitment we've already made to K through 12 education. So I would use that $100 million in ways that will make early childhood education, curriculum-based early childhood education available to more 3- and 4-year-olds so they start school ready to learn, and certainly make higher education, degrees at vocational schools or community colleges or region schools more available to all Kansans. Too many kids are struggling with the affordability of college. We've put additional money into the comprehensive tuition program, so there are more scholarships available and targeted scholarships, but we couldn't invest in anything better than to have a more educated workforce and more Kansas kids attend school.
All right, thank you. Senator Barnett, $100 million, what to do with it?
Anita, the answer to that is very easy for me. I'll give it back to the taxpayers. It's your money. I'm reminded of a patient I saw not long ago in for a checkup. He couldn't see as well. I asked him, why not? Well, he needed new glasses. So I asked him, well, how are your new glasses? He said, well, Doc, I can't afford him. He's a hardworking man married to a hardworking woman, one child, struggling to make payments to pay their taxes, to stay in their home. There's no doubt in my mind what I'll do with that extra money, I'll give it back to the taxpayers. That's where it belongs. We'll get it back into the economy, and that is a fundamental difference that you just heard between the governor and myself, how we grow this state's economy. We need that money back in your pockets. We don't need to keep taking it from you. That drives our businesses away and creates more trouble for our families.
Governor Sebelius, 30 seconds.
Well, I continue to be a little mystified by, on one hand, the idea we're not meeting our obligations, and on the other hand, ways to streamline our revenue. And actually, I think the senator has supported a freeze on state spending. I don't see that as productive. I continue to look for targeted tax cuts to grow this economy associated with jobs. That's why I'm so pleased that a 20-year priority of the Kansas Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which I proposed in December, is now law. We won't have property tax on business machinery and equipment. That's a huge step forward for Kansas business owners.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Barnett, 30 seconds.
Well, Governor, I offered a school finance plan that we could afford. We could actually appropriate money and pay for and break no promises. I meshed that with a tax policy plan to grow the state's economy. So long-term, what we really need is someone in the office of governor who will have the vision and will plan so that we can pay for those things. And I put 2.5% to the regents every year, 4 years out, and funded all of the frail and elderly waivers so that those needy Kansans would be protected as well. We need leadership from your office of governor.
All right. We'll return to our KSNT News gubernatorial debate in just 1 minute.
Our panel returns with another round of insightful questions to help you decide who should be our next governor. Stay with us.
Families throughout Northeast Kansas have relied on Family Service and Guidance Center since 1904. We provide quality mental health services to over 9,000 children and their families each year. The need for children's mental health care in our community is greater than ever. The Hearts Full of Hope campaign will allow Family Service and Guidance Center to expand to meet those needs. Now, we need your help. Please consider making a gift to help us improve children's lives. Call Family Service and Guidance Center today.
I'm Congressman Jim Ryan, and I approve this message.
Do you know where Nancy Boyda stands on issues like giving illegal immigrants a path to citizenship?
We have to have some path. They can go out of the country, come into the country. I don't care how they do it.
Nancy Boyda doesn't care that her amnesty plan would give Social Security and welfare benefits to 12 million illegal immigrants. And Boyda opposes border fences, calling them too expensive. Kansans want secure borders. Nancy Boyda doesn't care.
Welcome back to this 27 News Live special gubernatorial debate, Decision 2006. I'm Amy Leitz.
And I'm Bob Beatty. We're also joined by our panel of media partners. Anita Cochran is from KSNW in Wichita. Chris Moon is from the Topeka Capital Journal. And Liz Mondano is from 580 Radio.
And, of course, the two candidates have come back who want to be your next governor, Democratic candidate Kathleen Sebelius and Republican candidate Jim Barnett. We begin with a question from Anita Cochran.
All right, candidates, my question is, part of my job in Wichita is to travel the state and tell stories about our hometown, small Kansas towns, what's cool about the town, and bar none, they're all having trouble in downtown Kansas. What are you going to do for our small towns? How are you going to keep small town Kansas alive?
All right, and Senator Barnett begins.
Well, a tremendously important question because so many small towns across the state are tired of seeing their children leave because they don't have job opportunities. They're tired of seeing their downtowns close and businesses struggle. And it's because we've become a high-tax state. It's clear. You just have to talk to a few businessmen, a few businesswomen. That's what they'll tell you. And so the answer is this. We need a tax policy in this state to attract business. That's why I've offered a comprehensive plan. And it has to come with someone in the office of governor who will control spending, control government spending. During the last administration that we have seen in this state, we've become a leader in the nation in the growth of government. Actually, this year, the leading sector of the economy is government that's growing. We've got to turn that around and start developing a tax policy that's business friendly. And as governor, I will do that. I pledge that, and I've offered a credible plan.
Same question to you, Governor Sebelius. You have 1 minute.
Well, I think we have many cool towns in rural Kansas, and it's one of the things we have to do to get the word out. We definitely have increased the dollars spent on tourism and the opportunities to promote Kansas. But whether it's Cottonwood Falls, right in the heart of the Flint Hills, which is a gem that I hope travelers from Kansas and the country and the world will see, or Parsons, Kansas, with a brand new downtown area thanks to their Main Street grant, or Montezuma with the wind farm that has become in and of itself a tourist attraction. There's a lot going on in rural Kansas. I was pleased that the Economic Development Act had new money for rural initiatives, for regional rural health plans to make sure that we jumpstart rural initiatives. We need off-farm jobs, and that's why wind farms and alternative energy programs are so important. As farms get more efficient, fewer people are needed to work in those farming communities. And healthcare and schools are critical to farm communities.
Thank you, Governor. And Senator Barnett, time for your rebuttal, 30 seconds.
Well, yes, and the other onerous tax is property tax, and that's why I proposed yesterday a cap on property tax for anyone over 65 so they can stay in their homes and communities and not have to leave this state or leave their homes because of high property tax. The same is true for business. And Governor Sebelius has balanced the budget by taking away demand transfers and causing property tax to go up at local units of government, mainstream America.
Governor Sebelius, 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Well, actually, I was pleased to see the senator join an initiative that I helped to sponsor in 1990. Joan Wagner and I were sponsors of a bill that actually deferred property taxes for low-income seniors. It passed the House, didn't pass the Senate. What you have to be careful of without a lid is that tax just shifts to others, to farm families and young families and commercial businesses, which really doesn't help. I do think our school plan, which puts more money from the state, takes the burden off property taxes, and that's why I was pleased to sign it into law.
Thank you, Governor.
Candidates, your next question comes from panelist Chris Moon from the Topeka Capital Journal.
A book was published a couple of years ago on Kansas politics. It was called What's the Matter with Kansas? And the premise of the book was that Kansans sometimes vote against their own economic self-interest in favor of socially conservative candidates. Do you agree with that premise? And if this is going on in Kansas, are you concerned by that or reassured?
It's an interesting question. Governor Sebelius, we start with you. You have 1 minute.
Well, I read Tom Frank's book and agree with some of it, that I think a lot of voters vote against their economic interests and actually have lots of reasons that they cast votes for candidates that have to do with sharing values with the person identifying, work ethic, liking one candidate better than another, looking at ways that one candidate can move the state forward. So I think there are a whole variety of reasons that voters cast ballots. Tom grew up in this state. He hasn't lived in Kansas for a while. I'm hoping he comes back to Kansas and sees the terrific progress we're making in this state, bringing, frankly, voters together. It doesn't matter if they're Republicans and Democrats. A lot of people would rather see themselves as Kansans, get up every morning hoping we find some common value and work together to move this state forward on schools and health care and jobs and the economy.
Senator Barnett?
Chris, a very interesting question, difficult question. I think it speaks to a larger issue of how politics is influenced by money. And a lot of television ads, radio ads, and other slick commercials that mislead, misguide, and make it difficult for voters to really know. We've seen that, unfortunately, during this political cycle. And I tell you, what we need is someone who will face the facts. We need a governor who will actually be truthful and represent the current status of the economy and look long-term. Then after we've been able to face those facts and say, here's a credible plan. Here's how we get to a better day in Kansas, a brighter day where we are growing with a better economy and can deal with some of these issues that face the state. It really comes back to accountability and credibility, I believe.
Governor Sebelius, 30 seconds.
Well, I continue to feel there's a big difference between my opponent and I as we look at the future of this state. I do believe our best days are to come. I believe that we've made tremendous progress, and I'm proud of the progress we've made working together. He sees a very different Kansas, one where we're on the dark side and moving in the wrong direction. So I think voters have a clear choice here about where we want to go in the future and how we want to keep this progress going.
Senator Barnett, 30 seconds.
Well, thank you, Bob. I see a very bright Kansas, and we have wonderful people. That's been the best part of this campaign, to travel this state, to meet with great Kansans who are informed. They know that Kansas can do better. They're asking for leadership. They don't have any problem looking at the facts, facing reality, but they want someone who will lead this state to a better day. And that is a difference between the governor and myself. I've offered credible plans for growing the economy, health care, illegal immigration, and more. And that's what I think voters want.
Okay, thank you. Next question now comes from Liz Montaño from the 580 radio station. You have the next question.
Thank you again. The 2006 legislature stopped short of protecting all Kansans from eminent domain. Do you feel that the legislature is best suited to decide on local issues regarding eminent domain? If so, would you support a constitutional amendment banning such practice for economic development, thereby protecting property ownership rights for all Kansans? And why or why not?
Okay, in keeping with time restraints, we will not have rebuttals on this question. And Senator Barnett, you will begin. You have 1 minute.
Well, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Liz. Certainly, I support the constitutional right that a person's property belongs to him or her and should not be taken, including for economic development. Kansas has a history of abuse. And after the Kelo case, it was clear that we had to do more. So very much I support protecting that. I co-sponsored a constitutional amendment to that effect. That was not successful. I then supported statutory change that said that we cannot take your private property for economic development without the approval of the legislature. It was a compromise between two very differing sides, but I want to do the best we can to protect your rights.
Governor Sebelius, you have 1 minute.
Well, there's no question, Liz and Amy, that we live in a state where private property rights are a huge value to Kansans, and I support those rights. I support private ownership of property. What I think we need is a balance, and the legislature took a step last year that I think both the senator and I agree is likely to be revisited, where the state senate has now been turned into a planning commission, and I'm not sure most Kansans feel that if they live in northwest Kansas that the senators who come out of southeast Kansas should make a determination about what's happening to projects in their area. Local control is often the best way to make sure that citizens have accountability, that citizens have protection. So I think we will continue to discuss this critical issue and make sure that private property rights are protected as we move forward into the future.
Thanks to our panel and some excellent questions.
And now it's time to let each of the candidates give their closing statements. Hard to believe we've already been through an hour. A final word, if you will, to tell you why they want your vote.
Each candidate has 2 minutes for those final remarks, and we start with Governor Sebelius.
Well, thank you to Channel 27 and to Bob and Amy and the panelists and the viewers who asked questions and the listeners tonight. We've had a great opportunity to have a discussion here tonight. This is the 5th and final debate of this very important election. I think that it's so important that we continue the progress we've made, and I'm absolutely committed to fully funding the plan for Kansas children that was passed by the legislature, signed into law, and caused the Supreme Court to dismiss the case. It's the most important commitment that we can make, but we need to expand that commitment to early childhood education and higher education. We need to keep this economy growing and convince businesses to create new jobs. Our challenge in the future, now that we have low unemployment once again, is recruiting new workers, making sure that we have the workforce coming out of the universities that we're going to need for aircraft workers in Wichita and bioscience techs in the northeast parts of the state, working on alternative energy in central and western Kansas. Those are great opportunities, but we're going to need the workforce of the future. We need to stand behind our military men and women. We've had the bloodiest month of the war this month for Kansas, lost 4 Kansas soldiers. And as long as I'm governor, you have my commitment that we will continue to provide our resources, our emotional support, our prayers, and our energy to make sure that those who are sacrificing each and every day for us know that we stand behind them. We need to make more progress on health care. We've made some, not enough, but we've started down the right path, and I think we can continue into the future. I'm proud of what we've been able to do, working together, bringing Kansans together and moving forward. Now tonight, we have a new phase of daylight savings time. So Kansans, remember to set your clock back, take a little extra hour of sleep. But while you set the clock back, make sure you join me in moving Kansas forward. I appreciate your support and help. Ask for your prayers and your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor, especially for the time tip. And Senator Barnett, you have the same amount of time, 2 minutes.
Well, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, panelists. And thank you to the many great Kansans who have tuned in and have listened this evening and joined us for this important debate. As you have listened, there are some obvious contrasts between the governor and myself on how we can move this state forward. There are credible answers. There are ways we can grow the economy so we can catch up with the rest of the nation. But it will take leadership. It will take specific tax policy to achieve those goals. It will take leadership to help our senior citizens stay in their homes, and that's why I've proposed a cap on property tax valuations for our senior citizens across this state for their primary homes. It will take leadership who will not pass the buck and say immigration is a problem for the federal government on the border. Immigration, illegal immigration, is very much a problem that impacts our state, our health care, our educational system, law enforcement, and much more. We need a leader who will deal with health care. We've heard the governor say she's concerned, but nothing's happened. I'm concerned too. I am concerned deeply about that issue and can and will lead this state to a better day so we have more affordable health insurance, quality health care available for all of our citizens. It's in our bond of common humanity that we have to help each Kansan have health care available to them. With leadership, we can do great things, and we do have bright days ahead for this state. But you need someone who is dedicated to this state, someone who will dedicate their life and provide that leadership for the future of our children and our grandchildren. We have a bright future ahead with that leadership. I ask you for your vote on November 7th. God bless you, and God bless this great state. Thank you very much.
And that concludes our Decision 2006 gubernatorial debate. We want to first thank our candidates for taking the time to participate and better educate our viewers on who they'll be voting for before they head to the polls in less than 2 weeks. Be sure to stay tuned to 27 News in the days ahead. We'll be keeping a close watch of the candidates involved in local and state races. On Election Night, count on us to get the numbers, interviews, and outcomes throughout the night.
As citizens, be sure and make your voice heard on Election Day. Go to the polls and cast your ballots. Remember, in Kansas, every vote counts.
And as always, count on Dr. Bob Beatty to join us on Election Night to share his expert analysis throughout the evening. For Bob and our entire 27 News crew, I'm Amy Leitz. Thank you for watching tonight. Good night.
There's an amazing phenomenon sweeping America.
I don't know what's happening.